Est-ce que tout va bien? J'espère que vous êtes en forme, que vous avez bien déjeuné, que vous avez pu converser, que vous avez goûté les plaisirs culinaires de la région. Je suis ravi qu'on démarre cet après-midi tous ensemble avec un sujet qui est clé, qui est au cœur de toute la transformation numérique, digitale que nous vivons à titre personnel et puis dans toutes nos entreprises. C'est la data. Michel et son équipe vous ont vraiment gâté en invitant cet après-midi notre invité d'honneur, quelqu'un de formidable. Vous allez voir, on va avoir une présentation à l'américaine. Ça bouge beaucoup. Vous n'allez pas pouvoir faire la sieste. C'est une mauvaise nouvelle, mais en même temps, c'est une très bonne nouvelle parce que vous allez pouvoir ramener beaucoup de valeur dans vos entreprises et c'est ça qui compte infiniment. On va accueillir notre invité d'honneur, c'est Scott Taylor. C'est un formidable data évangéliste. Il est connu internationalement. C'est un storyteller sur la data. C'est un homme qui murmure à l'oreille des dirigeants des choses qui sont transformantes grâce aux données, grâce à la donnée, grâce aux data. Sa clé de succès, en fait, c'est de se concentrer sur l'alignement des activités. Ça vous rappellera des choses qu'on a entendues dans certaines masterclass ce matin. L'alignement des activités et le pourquoi stratégique. Vous savez, le fameux why. Bon, ça c'est important et il se concentre plutôt sur ça que sur la mise en œuvre de systèmes ou du comment technique. C'est-à-dire qu'il démarre d'abord avec, comme le dirait Simon Sinek, avec le Start with Why. Vous avez une chance formidable. Je vous demande d'applaudir et de faire un triomphe à notre invité, Scott Taylor, le consultant principal de MetaMeta Consulting. Hello Scott,
Hello.
You can come. Good afternoon. So proud to have you there.
Good
Thank
to
you
see
so
you.
much.
Good to see you. Nice, thank you.
Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Is it mine?
It is your
Okay,
turn.
then
Okay.
off
See
you go.
Have to go.
All
Yes.
right. Bonjour. Ah. C'est moi. Bonjour. Voilà. Everything we do turns to data. As your business and your business process go from analog to digital, from manual to automated, everything we do turns to data. And enterprises of all sizes are struggling to make sense of it all because instead of creating fabulous insights, this data creates a lot of chaos. When you use data, all you want to do at every business is find ways to grow your business, to improve your business, to protect your business, to sustain your business. That's what all companies want to do with data. But they must do two things first. They must derive meaning and determine the truth in their data, but in the opposite way. And when I say truth and meaning, I don't mean anything personal. This isn't about your own personal philosophical journey. What is the meaning of life? What is truth? This is nothing political either. We know lately the word truth in politics is meaningless. But this is about business. This is about your company. This is about what you do. So of course you can determine the truth and derive meaning. And you can take my entire personal data philosophy and boil it down to three words. Truth before meaning. That's the order. It's not chicken or egg here. It is egg and omelet. You need to determine the truth first before you derive meaning. This reminds me, this morning for a petit déjeuner, they asked me if I wanted a 2-egg omelet, and I said, no merci, 1 egg is enough. What's just a little dad joke for you? So my background here, Scott Taylor, I'm the data whisperer. Spoiler alert, in case you haven't noticed, I don't do a lot of whispering. We save that for the data. We're here to get people excited about the power and value of proper data management. And my company, MetaMeta Consulting, we're about what it's about. We talk about how people talk about data. MetaMeta, no, we're not changing our name to Facebook. And I provide what I call data evangelism as a service. How do you get people excited about the work we want to do with data, get them passionate and committed to do the right things with it? I actually provide inbound marketing content creation. That's what I do for a living. webinars, events like this, videos, and so on. But I focus not on the technical side of data. Data can get very complicated and very technical. I focus on the why, not the how. Again, you need both, but I don't know a CEO or a business leader who cares about how you're going to do something with data until they understand the why. And so I keep that why in mind. I wrote a book about this called Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management. As you can see, 99% buzzword free. I didn't want to overpromise. And I've got all kinds of accolades. Proud to say, here's my humble brag slide here. I'm on the Data IQ 100, the who's who of data management. I worked at Nielsen, Dun & Bradstreet, WPP and Kantar, and talked to every kind of company at every level of data maturity in all categories all over the world, and began to hear common themes, common struggles, common motifs. And so I bring some of that learning to you today. I do a lot of content. Mine's a little on the wacky side. If you haven't seen it yet, you have to check out my puppet show, Too Much Tech Talk, with the two puppet characters I created, the CDO, the Chief Dog Officer, and the ITB, who speaks only in buzzwords. And also, I read my grandson a data bedtime story called The Little Red Data Hen. It's a cautionary tale about the lack of data governance, so you may want to check that one out as well. And we want to be disruptive in technology. All of us want to be disruptive, and I think I come by that honestly as well. I've been disruptive since the 4th grade. Here's my 4th grade class picture. See if you can pick me out. That's me. I haven't changed much. I still appreciate the polka dots. But my teacher in the 4th grade wrote in my report card, "Scott is disruptive and distracting to others." I took that as a compliment. So truth before meaning. What do we mean by that? Determine the truth in your data that comes from data management, data governance, data quality, data stewardship, master data, reference data, MDM, RDM, PIM, DAM, all those foundational activities that every company must embark in to create and steward and manage that foundational data that really underpins everything we try to do. And then you can derive meaning through business intelligence, analytics, data science, data literacy, visualization, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all the hot, sexy stuff that everybody's interested in, but you really can't get that done effectively until you've built the foundation. So if you look at data management, determining the truth, that's where data starts. And if you look at deriving meaning in business intelligence, that's where data ends up. So it is a journey, but you have to start correctly. So the truth about data management is the success of every digitally transformative customer initiative, every inbound marketing effort, every foray into e-commerce, every enterprise software implementation is inextricably linked to the value of your data management efforts. That's a mouthful in any language. And it's the most complicated, longest way I can just say the thing we all learned on day one of data, GIGO. Garbage in, garbage out. La merde entre, sortie la merde. What you put in is what you get out. It's as sure as gravity. What you put into data management is what you get out of business intelligence. But I want to elevate that a little bit to the golden rule of data. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. What you put in is what you get out. So if you put garbage data into ERP, you get a lousy ERP. You put garbage data into CRM, you get bad customer experience. Put bad data into FinTech, you might get a visit from the regulators. Bad data into MarTech, you can damage your brand. Bad data into ML, bad robots. Bad data into BI, BS. Bad data into AI, AS, artificial stupidity. So no matter how you slice it, no matter how you dice it, the golden rule of data prevails. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. There's a little bit of that evangelism. Perfect room for it. Why is this important to you? If you look at the MarTech space, the marketing technology software space that many of you are in, 10 years ago, there were about 350 different platforms out there, software systems. Today, 10 years later in 2022, over 10,000. I worked at those two. If you can pick them out, that was me. And is it an IT problem? Not really. It's not an IT problem, it's a business problem. So even though we have all this software, we still need the business to support it, the business to drive the why. And here's a warning for you. IT can be very scary. Don't leave your data alone with IT. Very scary. So we look at all the macro trends out there. What is really on the mind of your leaders? What is your CEO talking about? What's in your annual report? If we look at all these macro trends that you are all dealing with, whether it's digital transformation or hyper-personalization or contactless engagement, which through COVID became the way we work now. That's not going backwards. E-commerce, omni-channel, the metaverse, Web 3.0, ABM, B2B, data privacy regulations, the Internet of Things, all of this in the fourth industrial revolution, every one of these takes technology. Technology, hardware, software, data. If you have data, you need data management. So I will suggest to you that data management is macro trend agnostic. No matter what these trends were 5 years ago, no matter what we're filling the screen with today, no matter what happens in 10 years, if it takes technology, it will still need data management. No two ways about it. Looking at the Internet of Things, just as an example, a very simple business requirement in the IoT, everything connects to everything else when it should. It's that should part that's the tough part. Should means privacy. Should means protection. Should means authenticated identity. Should means standards. So everything just doesn't connect to everything else no matter what. Example, here's my bed. Should connect to my coffee maker. That's a lovely bed to brew experience. I want that for sure. But it should not talk to my lawnmower. No reason to have that conversation. So identification in the Internet of Things, the warning I see is if you spell it out, it's idiot, which in French is idiot. Works either way. So let's break it down now, shall we? The data transformation, data management is the foundation of digital transformation. Let me decompose and break it down for you here. Digital transformation, a lot of people say, is a combination of people, process, tech, and data. I'll focus today just on the data part. And my definition of digital transformation is provide value to your relationships through your brands at scale. It's what many of us want to do. Provide value to your relationships through your brands at scale. Let's break that down. When we say provide value, only really 4 ways a company can bring value. Can you grow, increase sales? Can you improve operational efficiency? Can you protect, mitigate risk? Can you sustain through ESG? These are the 4 areas we focus on in every business. When we say scale, again, it means technology, hardware, software, data. But when we say relationships, that's what all of you are focused on. Customer, vendor, partner, prospect, consumer, citizen, patient. We all have relationships, no matter what you call them. If you don't have relationships, you don't have a business. So we have to look at the data about our relationships. And when we say brands, everybody here has a brand. It could be a product, an offering, a service, a location, a banner, ingredient, no matter what you call it, however you deliver it, it is still a brand. And you want that brand to bring value to your relationships, and you want to do it at scale. So I think I can boil down everybody's intention to that simple phrase. So if this is true, you have to look at the data about your relationships and about your brands. How is it? Is it any good? Depends. How many customers do you have? Oh, it depends. What are your biggest relationships? Oh, let me run that report. It'll take forever. What brands do we have in which markets? I got to check that out too. So there's a lot of work that has to be done to standardize and solidify that basic foundational data, which is called master data. So if that's the first time you're exposed to this term, learn it, know it well, because master data, that's your business nouns. It's what all your other data is about. It's the most important data in your organization. It is the data in charge of your business. People look at sales data, very important KPI, but a sale is just an intersection between a customer and a brand. So if you don't have the correct customer data and you don't have the right brand data, then those sales numbers aren't going to tie out. So this master data, this very foundational stuff, again, the most important data any organization has. Some of the benefits of master data, some of the benefits of data management, if it's part of the space is new to you, it provides a common language to your organization so everybody knows what everybody else is talking about. How important is that? It provides a standard for your company. So we have standardized on this concept of customer, or of partner, or of product. It's important to have that as well. And it even in its most simplest basis, if you think about a really fancy data visualization technique, let's call it a table. We all know how to read a table. People are really good at adding columns, but it's really tough to tie out the rows. Take two spreadsheets and try and bang them together. I'm sure you've had that experience where you have all these columns, but you don't tie out the rows. The columns are about the rows. So you want to make sure you tie that out. So master data, again, provides this common language, establishes a standard, and very simply makes sure you've got the right rows attached to the right columns. Now, these three phases of digital transformation, and in my journey, talking to every kind of company at every level of maturity in every category all over the earth, I saw a same process, the same journey that they all take. And so I tried to boil it down and share it with you today. And so these three phases of digital transformation, the first one is multiple silos, a legacy state. Many of us suffer from that. Got all these different departments, sales, marketing, finance, operations, different systems that support those different activities, creating all different versions of, let's say, customer or brand. And legacy doesn't necessarily mean old. It just means you're not connected yet. As marketers, you could have bought a new CDP yesterday and opened up a new definition of customer, and it's still siloed. So it's as much about the technology as it is about your business perspective. How do we integrate? How do we pull all this stuff together? It's more important for us to have a common language than to be siloed. And so people want to move from this legacy state to an integrated enterprise and become relationship-centric. How do you put the most important elements of your business at the center of what you do, both strategically and systematically? If you've heard of Customer 360, Product 360, it's round, it's a circle, centric, that geometry works for me. You've got to put something in the center and integrate it across your enterprise so everybody has the right data in the right place, the right time, in the right context, and they trust it and believe it and can work with each other. So this is great internally, but many folks want to move externally, move outside their organization, and they do that through a trust network. That's the next phase. So you go from a legacy state to an integrated enterprise to this idea of a trust network across connected ecosystems. How do you interoperate? Can you connect? Can you communicate seamlessly with other parties, both inside your organization and externally? Your different partners, your different suppliers, your different customers, your different vendors, only with data. So the way to move from a legacy state to an integrated enterprise to connected ecosystems takes two business universal requirements: authenticated identity and a common data structure. It may sound oversimplified, but if you don't have those two pieces, the rest of it won't work. Now, I'll give you some examples here. So, the big disruptors out there, we all know them: Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, and Netflix. They've all got this authenticated identity. They know exactly who you are no matter where you enter their system. They've got all the right information that's connected to your activity to be able to serve up more alternatives, or provide you with the right location, or give you the next movie you should see. all because all of their content and their activity is highly structured and well-coded underneath with authenticated identity and a universal data structure within their systems. The UPC, the GTIN, the barcode, that allows any product off of any shelf in any store to go to any cash register, and you run it off the front and it goes beep. That little beep, that's data in action. That means it works. Beep. That beep doesn't happen without that universal standard. And in marketing, if you go way back here, I know it's still out there, but the Pantone matching system for color, so people could communicate with each other with code numbers and be able to produce the right color shade for whatever that creative is. Just 3 examples, and there's dozens, if not hundreds, but just an idea that having an authenticated identity and a common data structure is what's helped a lot of these companies scale over decades and decades. We can just do it faster now because of technology. But the classic challenge that most companies run into, you've got different departments, again, sales, marketing, finance, operations. You've got different regions. Are you local? Are you multinational? Are you global? What geographies are you in? You've got different distribution methods. How do you get the stuff you make to the people who buy it? Do you deliver it digitally through the internet? Or do you manufacture it in a factory, and then it goes on a truck, and then it goes in a warehouse, and then goes on another truck, then goes in a store, that goes on a shelf, that goes in my cart, that goes in my kitchen? Very complicated. The more complicated your go-to-market, the more complicated your distribution system, the more data there is that isn't going to connect. And there are certain things in life that can't be digitized, like a consumer packaged good, like clothing. We've got opportunities there for digital transformation, but they're limited based on the tangible element of the delivery that we've got. And then you've got more and more data coming from third parties, external data from external providers like the ones I worked with, Nielsen, Dun & Bradstreet, consumer data, movement data. And it creates this world where you've got multiple systems and workflows that create disparate data with differing definitions that lack internal standards. Does this sound familiar? I could put this in front of your CIO tomorrow morning, and they would go, how'd you guess? That's our problem. It's everywhere. So if you do have it, a little bit of solace here, a little bit of comfort, it's not your fault. It's the nature of enterprises. The bigger the companies, the more difficult it becomes to manage all this data across their departments, across their regions, across their distribution methodology, and across their external data partners. And so the answer, very simply, is data management on the bottom. It ties all these things together from a data perspective. I always draw it on the bottom. I don't put it on the side or the top or the middle. For all those different silos, it's the foundation. For all those different verticals, it's the horizontal. For all those different columns, it's the row. Almost feels better to go like this than like this. I think people who are a little more nervous to go like that, but we want the row. We want the foundation. We want the horizontal. That's where the value is. So data management, I'm not going to butter it up or gussy it up too much. Data management, to tell you the truth, can equal pain. I don't mean bread here. I mean pain. And so let me show you what pain looks like. Warning, this is kind of graphic. If we're going to replay this on YouTube, be sure to check it's not for children. This is going to be a little offensive to any data stewards in the room, but this is what pain looks like. Let me see if you've got the same thing. I call it naked data because there's no way to hide from it. Looks like that. You work with Coca-Cola or the Coca-Cola company or Coke, or is it Coke Light or is it Diet Coke? Depends on the region. Very common. Or do you not know how to spell Nestle the same way twice? Or are you dealing with 7-Eleven? I don't know if you can see it up there. Somebody got very creative. 7 equals 11, not in base 10. If you're not familiar with 7-Eleven, similar to Wheat. So 7-Eleven has all these stores across all these different regions in the US. And this last column actually came from a call file, a retail distribution file of one of the manufacturers, and we took a look at that, and they had over 275 different ways to spell a 7-Eleven banner name. A lot of creativity in the field, none of it selling product. And if you think the software is going to fix it on its own, you put this in Excel, you get November 7th. Except for when I'm back home, you get July 11th, so it doesn't work either way. So structured data, which is what this is, works harder than unstructured data. That's the fact. Now, unstructured data gets a lot of press, it gets a lot of glory. People say, oh, we need all this unstructured data. That's where we're going to find all this wonderful insight. The way you find insight in unstructured data is you put structure on it. Oh, we can find out all these things about our customer if we look at this unstructured data. Okay, customer. What are they saying? What's the sentiment of about our product? Okay, product. So you've got to have those tags. You've got to have that structure in that data to get the value you're looking for. So you can quote me if you want. Structured data works harder than unstructured data. I'll give you kind of a little overview. And my tendency is to try and make things as simple as possible. Simple doesn't mean easy. Some technical people tell me all the time, you know, it's more complicated than that. I go, well, that's your problem, isn't it? So we try to simplify all this. So I'll give you a little overview called the 4 C's of data structure. For you to be able to get value out of data, for you to be able to determine the truth in that data before you derive meaning, you need these 4 C's. Code, company, category, and country. Now you need a code on a piece of data that actually determines its existence, that validates its existence and identity. It determines uniqueness. You have a code on a piece of data, it exists in a database. I have a code, therefore I am. So it might be a social security number, it might be a tax ID, it might be some third-party number, it might be a customer number, but you want to have a code on that data, that foundational data, to make sure it's unique, and that drives all sorts of integration as well. Then you want a company, or some form of hierarchy, a parent-child relationship, ship to, build to, plan to, sell to. You need that to do all kinds of very important use cases, such as we sent a salesperson to that bottom left oval. Did they know it was related to the bottom right oval? Or the bottom right, we just took out the lunch, but the bottom left, they're bad debt and they owe us money. Whose idea was that? So you want to have that hierarchical relationship to be able to cross-sell and upsell and get the total view of your relationship, of your customer, of your partner, whatever it is. Because your CEO wants that top oval number. They want one number when they go have that top-to-top with another partner, and that only comes if you've got this company structure, this company hierarchy. The third one is category. You need to know what kind of thing this is. And category drives all kinds of marketing activity. It drives targeting. We're really good with this kind of company. How do we find more of this kind of company? Market share, penetration, segmentation. ABM is all about segmentation in industries. If you don't have a category on there, then you don't know what kind of thing it is. And I haven't looked at any of your data, but a lot of data I've looked at, and every company I've ever looked at, their data has a category called other. Do you have other? Or other? You know why you have other? Because it's so hard to spell miscellaneous. The only company I looked at that didn't have other, they had a classification that was called DK. We asked them what that stood for. They said, don't know. Same as other. And then just because they all start with C, at least in English, you need country or some form of geography. You need to know where this thing is. And markets and geographies have all kinds of granularity too. Now maybe zip code or postal code or city and state and province, all different forms of market definitions. We're doing something in New York or Chicago or Paris or Berlin. What do we mean by that? Does everybody know the same definition of that geography? So these 4 C's, again, very simple. This is not, you should not write code off of this. This is not a data architecture, data modeling discussion, but just at the conceptual level, should give you an idea of how to put that structure on your data. And these 4 C's are absolutely critical. Now, you might call them something different. You might call it an entity, a hierarchy, a taxonomy, and a geography. It might be a location, an account, a channel, a market. It might be a product, a brand, a segment, and a region. It could be an item, an owner, a sector, location. It could be an inbound marketing, a piece of content, a source, a topic tag, and distribution. But it's simply a thing, a parent, a type, and a place. And with that, you know where something is, what it is, who owns it, and that it's unique. And if you have that, a lot of data problems go away. Let's just take a moment here and pretend you have the 4 C's on your data. Think about all those data problems going away. Take a deep data cleansing breath. I feel better for you already. Hope this works. Now let's put it into play here. Here's a market. Here's a geography. You can call it France. You can call it the US. You can call it Chicago. You can call it Berlin, Shanghai. It doesn't matter. It's some form of geography, and there are different entities in that geography. Hopefully they're unique, and those entities are of different types, and they belong to different parents, and those parents and those companies put their things wherever they want to, no matter what your geography definition is, and you need to know where they are. So this crazy Miro-like figure here explains a lot of different reporting. If you're a retailer, for instance, we build our stores in yellow. How many stores do we have? Or we're competing with green. What markets are they in? Or I'm dealing with blue. Who do they compete with? So entity, hierarchy, taxonomy, geography, code, company, category, country, it's the basis, it's the foundation, it's the foundational structure that holds up so much else of what you do. Now, when you find data value, there's a couple ways to look for it. And there's a lot of talk about data value. People bicker and debate about data value. You know, is data the new oil? I think no. Is data the new gold? Maybe. Data is data, but you got to find value in it somewhere. And in my travels, I've really only found a few places where people get data value, trying to sum it all up. So if you think about most of the data that most of the time brings most of your value most often, I think it'll be in what I call the 8 eights of data, or the 8 air, I think. You'll tell me if that's right. And so these 8 eights, we start with kind of a framework here. At the pinnacle is relate. Again, you want to build relationships, you want to grow relationships, you want to protect relationships, you want to sustain relationships, you want to mitigate the risk of certain types of relationships. There's some relationships you don't want to have. But as I said, if you don't have relationships, you don't have a business. It's the most important data you've got. That's why you are in business, is to build and maintain and support and develop these relationships. That's why it's at the top. But before you relate, way down on the bottom, you got to validate. Is this thing, does it exist? Do I have duplicates? Is it deceptive? Is it trying to deceive me? Should I even have that relationship or not? And again, duplicates are a big problem. Did I search before create? Or do your salespeople just add another relationship no matter what and then go off and try and do the sale and make you figure it out later? So you want to validate first. That's where most of the garbage comes in, when people do not validate that data in some way or process before it goes into their organization. And the bigger the organization, the bigger risk you have. I've talked to companies who've told me, you know, we have all these duplicates, and you start to look at their process and realize they have 28 different places you can create a customer. And they're not centralized, and they're siloed. That's the problem right there. You started the wrong way. So you want to keep that garbage from coming in and validate first. Then you want to integrate. How can you take all these disparate sources of data and pull them all together in some way? Again, I'm not going to design it for you, but people want to get as much as they can, as many columns as they can about that row. And so that integration happens at that level. Then you want to aggregate. How do you roll things up? How many things do we have, and what kind are they, and who owns them, and what markets are they in? So much of your reporting is an aggregation of some sort, of rolling it up across those 4 C's, if you will, code, company, category, and country. The next one on the foundation is interoperate. How do you communicate on a code-to-code basis, seamlessly, just like that UPC beep, with your partners? Interoperability, probably one of the most important words of this century, how things can connect to other things. Only standardized data can do that. There's nothing else that can. You don't have enough people, you don't have enough resources to do it by hand. So that's the foundation. Once you build that foundation to validate, integrate, aggregate, and interoperate, then you can evaluate. Then you can do analysis, then you can do BI, then you can do ML, then you can do AI and auto AI and all the other fancy stuff because you trust the data going in. Once you evaluate and you get that evaluation, then you want to communicate. You want to be able to share that knowledge with other parties in a way that drives the business. And you've got to have that standard language, you've got to have that standard, otherwise you don't communicate well. You ever been in a meeting where you go in and you start to talk to somebody with a report and you've got 12 and they've got 9 and 3 of them are different and you argue about the definition of whatever, before you know it, the meeting's over. So you want to communicate. And you've got to communicate if you want to have a relationship. Just ask anybody you love. Isn't that right, mon chéri? Yeah, there she is, okay. It's the data whisperer. Calms me down. So at the bottom here, that's where you determine the truth to build that foundation. And the top, that's where you derive meaning. Now, if you're counting here, there's only 7 8 so far, because the last one is circulate. Data has got to be in motion to have value. It can't stay stagnant in some sort of silo. It can't be locked in a PDF. It can't be held by somebody who does that special report that only they do, that they've been doing for years. That time is over. Data must move as close to the point of decision as possible. That's how you get that value. That's why it's important. So these 8 8s, validate, integrate, aggregate, interoperate, evaluate, communicate, relate, and circulate, are the 8 ways I have seen people get value out of data. You can take this in your own mind and think about your own business. And does this help sort of sort and clarify the kinds of activities you're doing? So if we look again, sort of mapping these 3 phases of digital transformation, put them along this axis here of greater value and deeper interoperability. And the premise is, the more interoperable you are, the greater the value. So that first phase, that legacy state of multiple silos, not a lot of integration, not a lot of interoperability, not a lot of value. Then you move to a relationship-centric across an integrated enterprise, more value, relationship 360, we've got all that fixed. Then you move to this trust network, where the magic really starts to happen. And so a lot of interoperability, a tremendous amount of value when you can live and thrive in that trust network that's based off of that data. And the 2 universal requirements, again, authenticated identity and a common data structure for those most important entities in your business: customer, vendor, partner, prospect, citizen, patient, brand, service, offering, the things you make, the people you sell to and buy from and partner with. That's standardized data. But if you look at it here, to move from silos to centric to network, what data management does, it provides that foundation, it provides semantic consistency at ever-increasing levels. So if you can tie your data out first across methodologies and processes and workflows, then departments and apps and platforms, then enterprises and value chains and verticals and ecosystems and entire marketplaces working off the same data, that's scale, that's value. That's where I hope we all want to be. That's where the most successful companies are in terms of being able to leverage their data. So data management is the foundation of digital transformation. It provides that semantic consistency. It enables deeper interoperability and provides greater value. So as everything we do turns to data, I believe this is your opportunity. A couple of thoughts and a couple of ideas you might want to take back with you. Data can transform your business. It can transform the nature of your business. It can change the way you operate and bring new business models, bring new value across your relationships and across your brands. Again, to do those four things, look at what you do with data, and I probably could fit them all in these buckets of, does it help grow, improve, protect, sustain? But the beauty of data, and somewhat of a miracle if you're not in the data business, you kind of look at it that way, is it can do them all across your entire company. There's not a single department that can help sales and marketing and finance and operations. Sometimes you can do it with the same record if it's well mastered, well stewarded, well governed data. Meet with your data governance team. Did you even know you have one? Go take a look at them. Talk to them. Find out what their objectives are. Find out what they're working on. Become involved with them. They need your support. They need your activity. They need your commitment to make sure they can build that foundation to your requirements. So talk to them about your problems. Data can solve all kinds of problems. The challenge you have is most data people want to show you how they're going to do it. But if you can get the right ones in the right room with the right perspective, just share what your problems are, and they can help you with that data. Learn their process. And it's of critical importance that data governance gets supported across the rest of the organization. It's usually way in the back room. People tend to be there a little bit frustrated, somewhat passionate, but nobody really listens to them. They don't give them all the money they need. They never support them in a lot of cases. So you want to be able to support that group because they can do a tremendous amount for your organization. And then understand, adopt, and enforce data standards wherever they are. So if you've got data standards internally in your organization, respect them. They're there to help you. I know we always think about working out of the box. In this case, we've got to be in the box. You've got to have that common language. You've got to have that standard way of looking at things. And enforce standards and look at standards externally as well, with your partners, with your execution partners, with your data providers. Do they provide data to you in a way that's integratable across your system and can pull it together and integrate it with other sources you have? They may have that ability, but until you ask them and pin them down, give them your structure, give them your requirements, and because they're a vendor, they should be able to accommodate you. But you want to add all their columns to your row. And that's the way to operationalize your ideas. So whatever your fantastic ideas in marketing and the way you want to execute them, if you want to do them at scale, they've got to be put on this standard. You've got to be able to operationalize it that way. And that's what allows you to do something instead of 10 times, you can do it 100. Instead of 1,000, you can do it 1,000,000 times if you have that standardized data structure as the foundation. So a couple of last truths about data management, and then we'll take some questions here. You must determine the truth first before you derive meaning. Again, not chicken or egg, it's egg and omelet. Master data is the most important data you have. If you just learn that, go tell that to your data governance team, and they will kiss you for it. They've never heard it before from a business person. The most important data you have, the data that the rest of your data is about. Data management is macro trend agnostic. No matter where we were, no matter where we are today, no matter where we're going, you're still going to need data management if it has to do with technology. Structured data works harder than unstructured data. Don't let any of those big data people fool you. It's always got to have structure in it, tags, and so on. Remember the golden rule of data? Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. And data management, hopefully we've proved to you today, is this foundation of digital transformation. And one final thought here, one truth. Good decisions made on bad data are just bad decisions you don't know about yet. I'm Scott Taylor, the Data Whisperer. I want to thank you all so much for your time and attention today. Merci beaucoup to the folks at Winbound,
Merci,
to
Scott.
Michelle, and to
Thank you
Sophie,
so
wherever
much.
she is. She kept us alive over this last week's.
Yes.
And my
Thank
last
you.
trick, okay.
Thank you so much, Scott. Fantastic. Thank you so much for the tricks of the trade of data management. We'll ask some people there to ask you some question. You raise your hand. Thank you, Stéphane. Okay, your turn, my guy.
Thanks for the brilliant presentation, Stéphane Lendy
Hi,
from
Stefan.
Switzerland.
How are
here.
you?
Good, thank you. So the question is, you've shown that that data management is important, right? So if, say I'm a company with different data in different databases and a mess like you've described, how would you start? From where would you start? Would you put in place from the best practice that you know about, that you've seen? Would you put in place a team of people that will start to work on that? Or would it be the BI or the data governance team? How, in terms of how and where would you start? I just raised the question in French before you answer.
No, that's a great question. And you've got to start, in many cases, there's something already happening. So everybody's got data, whether it's good or not, it's a different story. So my recommendation is always to start at least with those most important domains. Do we have a good customer master? Do we have the right kind of product data? You know, a lot of companies over COVID were thrust into e-commerce and they weren't ready. They couldn't pick up on that opportunity because the product data they had was operational and it wasn't fit to be put in front of consumers. So you want to have those basic domains, relationships, and brands. And my experience too, and being with Dun & Bradstreet and being with Nielsen and talking to a lot of these organizations, there's usually some folks way in the back room who are suffering from all that pain, who are trying to fix it, and nobody pays attention to them. I remember once an early story when I was working with Nielsen, we talked to a sales organization, and we were describing what we could do with their data, and the head of sales stood up and he said, Scott, you know, that sounds nice, but I can slice and dice my data any way I want to. All I have to do is push a button. And this really courageous analyst at the end of the table stood up and said, I'm the button. So you're going to find somebody in your organization who has that pain. And they'll probably say the same thing I'm saying, which is let's start with the basic. You don't start with BI. You don't start with analytics, because it's not going to, then you get bad numbers. So you want to start and make sure customer master is right, the vendor master, which procurement will use, the product and brand master, which marketing and operations and everyone else will use. So that stuff's structured and standardized in some way. And it doesn't have to be everything. What a lot of people suffer from too, and a lot of folks in the data management space suffer from a little bit too, is trying to, as they say, boil the ocean. We want to do everything. Start with your top customers. You know, your top, if the top 10% of your records equals 90% of your business, that's not unusual. So you're never going to get everything done, but it's as easy as just sort of prioritizing and starting with the right group. Another challenge is that finance might say, okay, so you're going to fix all this data. What kind of sales are you going to bring me? Where's the payout? So part of the reason I'm so passionate about data management is that I know it can help the whole organization, but the downside of that is it's rare for different departments to support an entire organizational initiative. It's kind of like a tax. So that's why I think the C-level has to get involved to understand that this is something that we need to build everything else we're doing on. So hopefully that gives you a couple of tips.
Thank you so much for that. We got another question there from Aidé.
I don't know how to answer my question. I think without energy, you can't make data work. And I thought our biggest battle, our biggest challenge is to be able to find the energy, renewable energy, not increase and at least reduce greenhouse gas effects, for example. Mm-hmm. And I'm still puzzled. I didn't hear that word during the presentation. How do you manage to consume less, find the energy which is renewable to make this data work? Because without energy, data can't be used. Even if it's amazing, it's still digital and it requires electricity. I know it's got nothing to do with what you've been talking about, but I'm still thinking before the egg. I'm thinking about the
afraid
energy
that might be my
required.
answer, actually.
You don't know. Well, you talked about the egg. You talk about the egg before the egg. I would say there's an energy problem.
Right.
That was my question.
I got you. No, I mean, it's clearly something that's on top of mind of a lot of organizations, but I'm afraid it's outside of my expertise. Next question.
Next question.
I don't know if it's really... Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. I think it was great. It's not really a question, but in my company that we're B2B, and a lot of the challenges we have is a lot of different systems for all the different functions. We have data gaps. So, you know, you were talking about other. We have a lot of blanks. It's just blank.
Right.
We don't have the data. So, I mean, maybe it's just an open question, but how do you get all these systems? I mean, wouldn't there be one system that could fit all the functions, all the departments inside one company, and make it as easy as possible for our sales teams, our marketing teams to feed into these systems? Because I think that's one of the biggest problem is, for example, our sales teams. It's, oh, but why do we have to fill in this information? And, oh, it takes too long, and so on. So I don't know if this is a question or just a reflection, but yeah, what's your thought on
It's
this?
It's a common situation. You could have described 1,000 different companies would have the same problem. And that's why something like master data becomes so critical. Whether it's a single system, whether it's multiple systems, whatever the architecture is, you know, that is now still developing. You know, do we use a data mesh or a data fabric or a lakehouse or whatever the latest fancy word is? The concept that's important to remember is to have this common view of these most important entities. So if you're salespeople, key in whatever they want and have somebody else go fix it, you've got to bring them in and show them the damage that they create with finance and operation, who has to untie all that dirty data. We might bill somebody the wrong way. We might ship something to the wrong place. We might send promotional activity and incentive to a very big customer that shouldn't have it because there's a duplicate in there. So there's a lot of different ramifications of it, results of it, that salespeople don't see. And, you know, salespeople just got to make the sale and whatever. But that's why I believe that senior leadership should be involved in this and help support, whether it's a mandate, whether it's a standard. It's hard to execute because, you know, it's difficult to sort of just top-down demand that you do this. But when you think about it as setting a standard rather than following a whole bunch of rules, I think the smarter salespeople can start to understand, look, this is better for everybody. Something as simple as, do you search for a record before you create a new one? It's that simple. You need a system to be able to do that, but that solves all kinds of problems. Do you have standards in place and kind of restrictions in the software so somebody can't key in other or have a null or whatever? Are there data stewards, which sometimes, to answer part of your question too, Stefan, you know, you have a data steward group who's there to kind of clean up data. Third parties that I worked for, Nielsen, Dun & Bradstreet in particular, had a lot of services to help organizations manage this data. And, you know, coming from those companies, not that I work with them anymore, but I believe in their premise, which is they are truly data companies and all they do is manage data. So there's an opportunity, can you find a partner to help manage your data for you so you can go ahead and sell? But nobody wants a version of that 7-Eleven slide that I showed, but everybody's got one. That's my most popular slide. People, can I keep that slide? Is why you probably can make one on your own. Don't worry, the different ways you spell stuff. But it's a common problem. But it's you know, you need data governance. You need if you have a CDO, Chief Data Officer, those companies are better informed. They've separated data from IT, which was always kind of a problem. And the CDOs, the most visionary ones, will understand these same things I'm talking about and make sure that the organization has that trusted foundation. But again, it's a common problem. So what you're seeing is not particular to your business and your organization, it's the nature of enterprises. Once you get bigger and you start to get more and more systems, then you start to get these different views of looking at things. But if your head of sales says, okay, what's our total sales number by region, and that takes too long, there's part of the problem, and that can be fixed by having that better data foundation.
So maybe the key is to just...
Wait, you need to have the mic, otherwise... Voilà, il faut que tu parles au micro, sinon ceux qui vont nous regarder en replay ne vont pas entendre ta question. Vas-y.
So what I get from what you're saying is maybe the key is to focus on the top 10 or the top metrics or the top customers.
Yeah, start at the top there. And actually make one of those 7-Eleven slides if you want to. I mean, you can embarrass people into it. So we used to, when I was running a sales team at Nielsen, we used to find those examples. Let's go to a prospect, let's find all the 57 different ways they spell something, and we had an affectionate name for it. We called it telling somebody their baby's ugly. And you got to kind of rub their nose in it. The shame report. Look at this garbage we have here. And meanwhile, the CEO is talking about how we're going to transform our customer experience in the annual report. And you've got this crap data on the bottom. It just does not connect. Does not connect. But if you look at one technique, and I put it in my book, if you're looking for why this is important, something that doesn't work is when a lot of the data folks kind of whine about data quality. We need better data quality. And it's just like, why? It's very emotional. It's very subjective. Everybody's got a different definition of data quality. But look at where your company's trying to go. And listen when your leaders say, we're trying to transform our customer experience. We're trying to be more efficient. We're trying, whatever those big initiatives are, none of them are, we need better data quality. But you can kind of pull a string on each of those initiatives, and there's some data problem down there that's going to wiggle a little bit, because they're definitely connected. If it has to do with customers and relationships, and it has to do with brands, then there's data that's going to support that. And so it's trying to connect those dots.
Scott, we got the last question from Esther over there.
Thanks. Good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation, Scott. I was just wondering about the GDPR. Do you consider that changed the way we need to deal with data management, or is it something we just take it into account, or?
Don't worry about it. It'll go away. No. It's obviously data management has an important role in that, in trying to protect data. Whether it's GDPR or it's CCPA in the U.S. I noticed all the data privacies have 4 initials for some reason. They like that. But validating data, privacy, protecting it, making sure the right people see it, making sure it's not accessible in a way to everybody at a column level or a row level. The only way to manage it is in data management. And in a lot of cases, GDPR was kind of the forcing factor for companies to finally take care of their data. The beauty is, a lot of that work can be used elsewhere. So if you've gone through that hard work to manage and secure and determine what data is exposed to whom, when, you should be able to leverage that structure in something that looks very disconnected over in marketing. But it's a really good way to screw up your brand is to let the wrong data out. There's story after story about that. And so if that isn't a big enough stick, I don't know what is. But data privacy just adds a whole other dimension of the need for data management.
Thank you, Scott.
We done?
Perfect.
Okay, all right.
Yes. Could you please stand up ovation for staying there? Thank you so much.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you very much.
Just stay with me a little bit. Yes.
Oh, sure.
Yes. Thank you so much for being there. Thank you for the helping. Just one more thing, because it's really important. Do you have any trick to give? Another trick to our friends there. Last thing.
One trick?
Yes,
for
the best one.
About what?
To help them to succeed.
I shot it all. My whole wad was
just
that truth, meaning, standards.
The most important.
The most important one
sure.
is still truth before meaning. I don't know. What else can I tell you?
You understand that? C'est bon? Vous l'avez? Super. Right. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Merci.
That's it.
Merci beaucoup. J'ai une super nouvelle. On se retrouve dans 25 minutes, ce qui signifie ici ou dans d'autres salles si vous le voulez, c'est que vous avez 25 minutes de networking. Profitez-en, ramenez de la valeur dans vos boîtes. C'est votre mission aujourd'hui. Merci à vous tous, merci.